making that human connection into the heart space. Letting them know by your look that they have value as a human being. We know that everyone has their own battles. They have their own joys. We have ours. We are in a world of people who, we might say, couldn't care less. But it's up to us to be that person who cares more. Kindness is when we are running our own race, but we are cheering on others in their race. As we lift them up, we are lifted. Kindness is catching. It is love. It is grace. It is a chain reaction that can change the world. So let us be the kindness, the change we wish to see in the world. Kindness is the essence and worth of all. It's not the superficial or external influences we see. I think Mark Twain said it very well and quite deeply. Kindness is the language the deaf can hear and that the blind can see. So our affirmation this month, as I said, is written by our dear Sandy Solomon. And I'm going to say it once and invite you to say it twice with me, holding this deep space of kindness within you and being a part of that chain reaction in the world. The affirmation is, in all situations, I choose kindness. Together. In all situations, I choose kindness. Once more. In all situations, I choose kindness.
So I have this funny question that I wanted to start with today. You know, I often start with questions for consideration. The question is this: have any of you out there, have any of you ever felt lost on the path of life? No? I have felt lost on the path of life once or twice. Mostly I felt lost on the path of life because there were signs that were all around me, but I ignored them. Have you ever realized after the fact that you saw a sign but ignored it, missed it, or hesitated to follow it? Like, that happens sometimes. I missed a sign on the Camino once. So I decided I was going to show you two pictures today. The first one is this. This was my view a lot on the Camino. This is the landscape that I walked through for 500 miles when I walked the Camino. On this particular day, I was walking from Las Herrerias to Triacastela. Now, this is a 19-mile walk from that place to that place, right? And along the way, I was so taken in by all of the exquisite beauty that was all around me. I was walking and walking and walking and walking and walking down this road and looking out there and walking and walking and walking. And this little white pickup truck starts going by, and the people in the pickup truck saw me on the road. They're going, hey, 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 because they knew what I didn't know, which is that I had missed the turn. And so this was my response. Literally missed the sign. And when I got back to it, I thought, well, the sign is so obvious, how could I miss it? Oh, sometimes the signs are so obvious we miss them. because they're almost too obvious, right? You can take that down now. It's a funny picture, though. Yeah, sometimes we miss the signs. So there's that. Plus, I have a story to tell you. There was a weary traveler who was burdened by sorrow. This is not a personal story. I was not in sorrow on the Camino. I just want to be clear. So there's a weary traveler burdened by sorrow who wandered through a mist-laden valley and came upon an elder stacking stones along the path. Now, the elder's hands were, weathered, and yet they were steady as they carefully balanced one stone atop another. The traveler asked, "Why do you build these cairns?" They're called cairns. "Why do you build these cairns?" And the elder smiled and said, with the lines on their face deep with wisdom, "Each stone is an act of kindness left behind, not for recognition, but to guide those who follow. Some mark the way for the lost, others hold prayers for those who came before. Every kindness, like every stone, shapes the journey." The traveler watched as the elder placed yet another rock, their movements reverent, as if honoring an unseen presence. The traveler hesitated, then reached into their satchel, and pulling out a small, smooth stone, they thought of the kindness that they had received, a warm meal from a stranger, a comforting word in a time of doubt, and then placed the stone gently atop the cairn. A breeze stirred, carrying the mist in the valley away, and for the first time in a long while, the path ahead seemed clear. As they walked on, their heart felt lighter, knowing that kindness is not just something to believe in, but something to live. And in living it, they became a guide, leaving light for others on the path. I think a lot about that journey that I took a couple years ago. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since I took that journey to walk the Camino. And I looked through all of the more than 2,000 pictures that I took of that journey, and I was looking. There are a couple places where there are cairns to mark the path. So cairns are intentional markers, stacks of stones that are intentional markers that help us be guided on uncertain paths. If the path we're traveling is not set in, right? I couldn't find any pictures. I didn't take any pictures of any cairns on the Camino, so I don't have any to show you there. But there is one very significant place where the pile of stones is actually very, very, it's a very deep experience. And when I was sending my videos in each week, there was a video that I sent where I stood at the foot of the Iron Cross, which is a spot on the Camino. And what is expected is that you take a stone, you start with a stone in your pack, on your person, when you begin the Camino, and it's at the Iron Cross that you lay that stone down. And it is meant to be, it is a representation of the laying off of our burdens, or the laying off of our sin, which is self-inflicted nonsense. Not something that is innate in us. You lay that stone down and you say, "I am willing to release all that has preceded and move forward now." And it's something that I think any pilgrim who walks the Camino Frances, the most well-known of the Camino paths, every pilgrim looks forward to this. It's a huge topic of conversation among pilgrims before you reach it, and it's about 4 weeks into the walk. So it's an intentional marker where you live and express something with deep intention. And it was a very significant part of that journey for me. I'll tell you, I think about it now, and I do well up with some emotion. I think about what the experience was laying that stone down. I have a picture of that stone. I should have brought a picture of that stone, because I have a picture of my stone on the pile of stones at the Iron Cross. And I think of all of those stones, and I think of that pile as essentially like a spiritual cairn, a spiritual marker, where each aspect there represents a principle, a teaching, the inner wisdom that we all seek to follow on a spiritual path. And yet, sometimes even on the spiritual path, we can still feel lost. Why, the question sort of comes up for me, why do we sometimes hesitate to follow the markers? Sorry? Because we think we know better. Oh, that's a big one. We don't know what we don't know. We missed it. Oh, yeah, well, I missed the marker. Fear. Fear. We hesitate to follow the markers oftentimes because of fear. Habit. Oh, habit. That's a big one. I actually didn't expect to have answers, but these are good. These are good. Here's the thing, the most significant and the most profound spiritual cairn that I think exists is love. That's what I think is the most profound, the most significant spiritual marker. And that's what the song tells us. The song tells us this. Have you heard? Have you heard? The word is love. Thank goodness. You know, that's not the arrangement of John Lennon and Paul McCartney, but that's a Beatles tune. Have you heard? The word is love. It's so fine. It's sunshine. What I like to think of love as, love actually is the ultimate guiding power. If I root my mind, if I root my heart, if I root my expression and experience from the point of view of the feeling tone of infinite love, which is the core of who I am, then I am always guided in the right direction. Always, no matter what. And here's the thing about that. I have to take some water. An intellectual understanding of this is not enough. An intellectual understanding is never enough. What I'm talking about today is to allow us each to find the inner calling. And it is an inner calling to activate love, kindness, and faith in every single moment. Because those markers infinitely exist. The markers are there, everywhere, all the time. But them being there does not necessarily mean we recognize them or follow them. I see a lot of experiences of people not necessarily following the markers. That's my estimation, and I don't say that in order to be judgmental, although I guess it can come across as judgmental. It's an opinion that I have. I don't let myself be too rooted or weighted in that opinion. But my desire is to be a spiritual marker to help guide others to love and kindness and faith in every single moment. Sometimes Cairns get knocked over. They get knocked over, not purposefully, maybe sometimes purposefully. Sometimes they may be intentionally altered. They may be misinterpreted. Just like the spiritual path can sometimes be forgotten or ignored or distorted because we look at something and we believe that's something that ultimately is detrimental to our highest and best. I don't know why I always do that and then look at you, Sandy. It's not intentional. Has anyone ever forgotten or ignored or distorted their spiritual path? I have. There are times, boy, I did this. I just stepped off of principle for just a moment. But the good news is that if I'm willing to see the marker, I get myself right back on the path very quickly. A lot of what I talk about in my ministry is what I call narrowing the gap. Narrowing the gap. When we are having the experience of life, we have some circumstance that unfolds in our life. And sometimes we look at that circumstance and we say, oh gosh, that's a challenging circumstance. Challenging circumstances, anyone? That's a challenging circumstance. And then we forget that over here is the divine truth about all experience, about all circumstances, and about all expression. And part of the adoption of spiritual practices in my life, and I encourage you to start to consider this, is that the gap that exists between this experience and the divine revelation about that experience begins to be narrowed down. And so what happens is there doesn't take as much time for us to go from experience to divine revelation, where we have a perspective on that experience, and we know that that experience is just that, an experience. And we are greater than any experience we could ever have in the world of circumstance. And so, as we move through and develop a spiritual path, we narrow that gap until we realize that all experiences are divine. That, for me, is the narrowed gap, where I have an experience and I have a perspective on it from the point of view of God, of divinity, of infinite, profound love. So the Cairn Conundrum is this: why is it we sometimes feel lost when we always, always, always have guidance? Why is it we sometimes feel lost when we always have guidance? If kindness and love are the answer, why do we sometimes struggle to be consistent in acting from that point of view? What is it that allows us to ever consider acting from any other point of view? The lyrics in the song, in the beginning I misunderstood, but now I've got it. The word is good. The word is good. The word is love. Maybe we get lost on the path because, well, one idea is that we overthink and analyze rather than acting upon spiritual understanding. Anyone overthink? Why did this happen to me? Well, nothing's happening to you. Oh, that's right. Why did this happen by me? The answer to the question why is unanswerable. It's an unanswerable question. Seek not to understand why, but rather to allow yourself to understand from the point of view of love. Seek to understand from the point of view of love. We overthink and analyze rather than acting upon spiritual understanding. The ultimate spiritual understanding is love. Another reason why we may get lost on the path is because we let distractions take over. Oh, so many distractions in the media, so much fear in the stories we hear, or doubt can pull us away from that path. Another reason we get lost on the path is because we believe the journey shouldn't require perseverance. I've had this experience. People come into our New Thought spiritual communities. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I resonate with this. I'm really excited about this. And God is all there is. That's what I'm hearing. And great. Okay. Why is my life not all of a sudden better like that? Okay, this clearly doesn't work. I'm out of here. See, I see it all the time. What? That didn't work? I give up. Instant gratification is what we all seek. And we are given promises of instant gratification because of the media. Because every commercial advertisement says you can instantly be cured of all of your ills. But here's the thing, and I'm going to use this word again, even though I get pushback on this word sometimes. This philosophy requires work. It does. It requires work. Now, I want to acknowledge that the work does not have to be toil. It does not have to be hard work. It just requires perseverance in the work. My life got better because I stuck with it. I stuck with it. This is a spiritual philosophy that resonated with me, first intellectually, but the minute I chose to embody it, something else took hold of my experience and said, yes, you are living the life you want to the fullest. And that is what I have experienced ever since. It takes perseverance. That's why I say, coming here on a Sunday is great, but I give you home practice at the completion of every message. I was about to say sermon. I do use the word sermon, by the way. At the completion of every sermon, every message, I give you home practice because this philosophy will do nothing for you unless you actively, practically put it to use in your life. That's the power of this philosophy. Spiritual understanding is an evolution, and evolution may take time and practice. It is a spiritual practice that we are involved in, right? So the key to finding our way, ultimately, is stated in the fifth of the 5 basic principles of unity. Those 5 basic principles, the first 4, God is, I am, thoughts and beliefs and feelings create our experience, and prayer and meditation are the way that we direct those thoughts and beliefs into creating the constructs of our lives. The 5th principle is this: it is not enough to just know about spiritual principles. We must decide to live them. We must make the decision. We must allow ourselves to live from the point of view of making God-ordained, centered choices in our mind all the time. The 5th principle invites and, frankly, maybe challenges. The 5th principle invites, but maybe challenges us to move beyond the intellectual understanding into an embodiment and practice. Are you ready to be on that journey today? And the rest of you? It's scary. It's scary. Diane, you're here. I know exactly where you are. I'm going to tell the story of your friend, right? And I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know the story as well as you tell it. But Diane had a friend that they took to their spiritual community in Washington, right? Yeah, she's saying yes. And we're all excited when we bring friends to our spiritual community, right? And some of you may be having this experience if you're new to our community. You come in, you hear the minister speak, and what this person left with was this: I don't think I want to go back because they are requiring me to take responsibility for my life and actually do work. Paraphrased okay? It got the idea across. Yeah, she's like, yeah. The primary way forward on the path is to recognize those spiritual cairns. Begin to recognize the spiritual cairns. They exist infinitely everywhere. Love, kindness, intuition, understanding. We have another way that we talk about some of these spiritual cairns. We allow them to be expressed through the 12 faculties, the 12 powers. That's one of the tools that we have here at Unity of Tucson to allow ourselves to understand those spiritual cairns, the guideposts on the path. They are always there. They are always available. Love and kindness and faith are always, always, always available. Trust the path. Trust the path. And if a white pickup truck comes by and says, be okay with turning around and finding the right path. It's okay. Keep going. Even if we can't see what's ahead. I'll tell you, walking 500 miles on the Camino, 99% of the time, I did not know what lay ahead. Thank you. It took me a minute. I did not know what lay ahead. But I always knew, no matter what, that the experience would be rooted in love, kindness, and faith, because that was the experience I had in every interaction. I have spoken frequently about the Camino being a community. It is a community. The Camino is a community. And as you walk, you kind of forget about the rest of the world because you've got a lot of time to think. I walked 19 miles that day. That day of 34 days of walking, I walked 19 miles. And letting myself just be present in the experience. I recognized that every single person I encountered was a cairn for me and allowed me to be a cairn for others. My choice then was to always, always lead with love and kindness, and to offer kindness to those who seemed lost. I met people who had the experience of seeming lost on the way. And they were actually on that path because they were seeking to find something in their life. I don't know why, other than it was something that I just felt I needed to do. I don't know why I chose to walk the Camino a couple years ago. There was no kind of impulse that said, oh my gosh, you're going to have this spiritual revelation. And I kept thinking when I was actually walking, I'm like, when does the spiritual revelation actually happen? Because when I completed the Camino, what I realized is that the spiritual revelation is this. It is a moment-by-moment living of life in spiritual revelation. That there was not just this moment where it was like, ah, and the heavens opened up and the light shone down upon me. I could have been a really good Southern preacher. It's the acting, yeah. So we are never truly lost, although we might experience being temporarily unaware of the guidance available to us. Now that I know what I feel must be right, I'm here to show everybody the light, the song tells us. In Psalm 119 is this line that says, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. My encouragement to you today, choose to live love as spiritual truth and be a cairn of kindness. Peace and blessings. The home practice today is to keep a small stone in a place where you will notice it repeatedly throughout the day. We have, touchstones and things, if you would like, that you can purchase in our bookstore. But it can be any stone. You can pick up a stone off the path. It's okay. Whatever stone resonates with you. Keep a small stone in a place where you will notice it repeatedly throughout the day. And each time you see it or touch it, reaffirm, I am on the path. I am a guidepost for kindness. Let that be the practice this week.